Hello there guys and welcome back to the Alliance War video once again. So this is going to be War 8 in Season 24 and ASR is going up against APOCO. Now this war, quite honestly, might not be the most exciting in terms of the actual amount of fights that it took and the fights themselves, but it was one of the closest, most exciting, most tense wars ASR as an alliance had. Now, APOCO is a very worthy opponent. They have been finishing in Masters like pretty much every time, and yeah, we knew going in that this is going to be a close war. And the thing right now is ASR has already had 2 losses, and we're not having the best season at all. However, pretty much every other alliance, I think, except NY718, has lost at least one war, if not 2, that typically are the contenders for the first place in Masters. Therefore, it is extremely unlikely that ASR does make it to the first spot, but it is quite likely that we can sneak back in to top 3 if we pick up our slack, if we don't lose any more wars, and if we beat a couple of like close standing opponents. So obviously we are trying as hard as we can. And this season, again, has been quite crazy with the whole amount of bugs, glitches, disconnects, and that alone deciding a lot of wars, which kind of make this war season itself a bit of chaos. And then we have complete meta shift from stubborn meta to protect and meta with some sprinkles of bulwark. So you never know what's going to happen. And obviously what we want to happen is we want to keep on winning and we want to make it to top 3. So let's jump here. As I said, we're going up against APOCO, and it typically is already some time that war has started before I actually get to jump in, because I typically stream at the time that the war starts. However, we already had 36 offensive kills. They only had 5, and neither of the alliances had given up any death. So at this point, we're going in basically kind of like on a clean sheet, no KOs given away. And as I mentioned before, my fights themselves, not all of them will be overly interesting. Some of them are kind of cool, but it's not the most exciting war that I have ever uploaded in terms of my gameplay. However, the story developments, the drama behind it, and players going missing and all that stuff was huge. So I will do my best with my commentary to kind of like bring you guys into the mindset that I and my teammates had and the things that we're checking and just how exactly tense this war turned out to be. So when it comes to boosting up, I think these days, especially since I have started doing a bit more arena and actually pay attention to the 7-hour events where you can get 15% attack boosts, for first time like forever, I already have attack boosts in overflow, and I still have a whole bunch of supreme solo crystals to open. So I really do not worry about boosts. I'm kind of in a fairly good place. During gifting event, I stocked up on Alliance War potions and revives, even though luckily I haven't had to use any revives, but I'm kind of well stocked, so I'm kind of ready and fully committed to boosting as much as I have to, and my account is in a quite good, well stocked up place there. And this first fight is Path 7 and Section 1. Now, Blade here is quite typical placement. You do see him here quite often. He used to be a lot harder with the Stubborn Global, but now that Stubborn is gone, and you can just simply quake him with no problems. And yeah, there's not much to worry about. It's really not the trickiest or scariest fight anymore. And the Path fights themselves, I only actually got allocated 2 fights to me straight up, because I was on Path 7 in Section 1 and Path 2 in Section 2, and they were missing fights, so I technically only had 2 fights in this war, but I end up taking a fair amount more by the end of them, because I take some of the joint fights and stuff like that, but we're gonna get there. So I have done my first fight. We can see that the node above is missing, there's nothing there, and also the one that's kind of like the joint fight at the end of the right side bubble is missing there. However, we do have this mojo here on the power snack backup recovery, and since it's mojo, I'm going to be using Human Torch. I could also go in with Quake, obviously, but Human Torch is there, so I'm just going to burn the guy down. Now, when you go up against this power snack with Torch, I absolutely like to take off Dexterity. Now, typically, I do also like to max out Stupefy and Petrify Masteries, just to kind of like give myself extra edge, but this time I honestly kind of forgot about it. And yeah, so I quickly took off Dex, jumping back in here, same set of boost still, and we're gonna go in there, and as we know, Human Torch has a fantastic time against Mystic Champions, and Mojo specifically, just double checking nodes, even though I have done this fight dozens of times already, just kind of like trying to be safe here. And I will make one slip up, but that slip up is actually kind of like arguably not serious. So I basically try to do 3 hit combos here, parry quite as often as possible, just to give myself extra smolders. But here he is going to go for his level 1, which I will end up eating to the face. But that gives me a bunch of smolders, and that puts a bunch of incinerates on him. So as an end result, Mojo actually lost more percentage of his health than I did by eating that level 1. So it really is not the biggest issue. And it's also a legitimate playstyle in some fights, where if opponent has multi-hit special attacks as a Mystic Champion, you kind of want to eat that level 1, because they kill themselves. We can see that they're absolutely melting here at this point. It's like 50 seconds, 55 seconds, and the big bad Mojo goes down, and Human Torch absolutely torches that guy down. Right, and at this point, that was it for my evening. That was the last fight. I was going to bed. Unfortunately, I actually had a very, very stressful and sleepless night. I woke up like 3 or 4 times, so we're gonna have actual screenshots of me during the times that I wouldn't normally be awake. But when I woke up at like 2 a.m., I checked back in Alliance War, and we had a defensive kill. And then out of curiosity, I went to check who got the defensive kill. And the only 5-star that I place on defense currently is Daredevil Netflix, and he's somehow squeezed in. Ever so important clutch kill right there, putting us in a lead. So that definitely put a smile on my face. Daredevil Netflix putting in work. Nice. Right. So past that, again, I couldn't sleep. I woke up a while later, and it was 1-1. And this is pretty much the story of this entire war. There's 1 death here, 1 death there, 1 death difference all the time, and it was crazy hectic. We have slightly more explored nodes, but effectively the war is tied right now. Whoa, let's just take a break right here. So if you have been enjoying the video thus far, then it would be absolutely magnificent if you could please hit that sub button for me. Hopefully today is the day that I have earned your subscription. But now let's get back to the video. And then I wake up in the morning, when I like properly woke up. It's 3-3. I haven't done any more fights up until this point, but again, we are ahead on exploration, but it's even. 3-3. So again, the war is as close as it can be. And here at this point, I got a nudge from my officer to go and clear my fights, just so it kind of like opens up the people that how to take care of the rest of the fights. So as I said, I'm on path 2, but I did have nothing on the first lane, and people already stole the joint fights that I had there. On that EMP modification node, I had Mephisto, which I would have taken had it like been left for me, because I could either use Torch with the pre-fight, or I could just Quake the guy, and it wouldn't have been a problem. I would have liked to have that fight. And above Mordo, on that joint node, there was Darkhawk, which again, I would have just Quaked. But here, we can see Mordo, Strike Counter, Power Suppression. Now, Strike Counter, Power Suppression nodes are extremely unimpressive for most part. Strike Counter Fury, very scary node that is without a doubt responsible for many brown pants. Strike Counter, Power Suppression, people just ignore it and use champions that don't rely on special attacks for most part. And that's about it. So those 2 nodes share the name, or share part of the name, but they're nowhere close to the level of scariness. And yeah, so with Quake, as long as you are holding the heavy attack when Mordo's power gain would trigger, he doesn't get it, like we can see here. And yeah, the fight's very easy, very straightforward, absolutely nothing to worry about. I think at the very, very last minute there, he's going to sneak one in, which gives him in exactly 1 bar of power, which is a reason to worry. But as you can see, the Quake is taking him down quickly enough. He's like 15%. And by the time he actually reaches that bar of power, just drop a heavy attack and the fight is over. So very straightforward, clean Quake fight. Absolutely no problems there. And now next up, I do how man thing. And I can kind of like fast forward a bit because you guys probably don't really want to watch these fights. But again, it's a very decent, clean Quake fight. Just takes a while. Man thing, obviously huge health pool, but I do have class advantage. So how long did it take? Actually, let's take a look. What, 2 minutes? So not that bad. I have had worse fights. Speaking of worse fights, this is going to be one of the worst fights. So it's a rank 3 Korg here on this stun immune hazard shift class disadvantage. We can see 280k HP, and my officer sent me in to Quake this guy. Now, keep in mind I had just done 2 Quake fights. My finger is already letting me feel that it's not happy with me. And this is not going to be a perfect Quake fight by any means. And it's also going to be quite a long Quake fight. I'm not going to show all of it again, just because you guys probably have seen plenty of times me using Quake. But you can see that he's going down very, very slowly. At some point, I'm going to make a mistake, eat a combo. So here I ate a full combo, but Korg isn't the hardest hitter, so it's fine. I actually kind of wanted, sneakily, I had hope that he's going to push me down below 50%, and I'd be like, cool, at least I can trigger courage and get out of here quicker, because man, my finger was killing me. That's the problem with these long Quake fights, is that your fingers definitely let you feel. I typically like to take a break in between like a longer Quake fight, and I really definitely do wish that I had stopped the recording, walked away for 5-10 minutes, and come back in a bit to do this fight, because yeah, having a little bit of time to rest your fingers when you're using Quake consistently is so important. But here we can see that we're closing into halfway point in the fight. He's at like 42%, so I'm not quite in the danger zone of timing out, but I know it's going to be a long, long fight. I wish I probably, I should probably wish that I put on like Suicide Masteries for this fight, because some of these fights are just getting ridiculous and using 5-star against 6-star rank 3s. Obviously, Quake's still insanely great champion. I think the most OP champion in the game. But it's getting harder and harder in your fingers to keep on using her. Thank God for 5-minute timers though. And yeah, so I think 57%. I don't think I'd take any more hits there. He's going down fairly steadily. Fight has like 130 left on the clock, 120 something. So it was like 3 minutes 40 straight up quaking. And yeah, so that is it for my war fights. Not too many of them. If I count, what is it, like 5-6 fights? Something like that. 2 here, 2 there. I think 6. I don't even know. But here is the main thing. We were actually losing. 137 kills here for us, 96 for them. But they are up a defensive kill. So as I said before, it hasn't been our brightest season. But hey. Right, so the war is still extremely tense. There's very little we can do as an alliance, because we only have 13 nodes left to kill, but to watch the opponents for the most part, or so we thought. At some point, when we kept on exploring, we only have 5 fights left. They tied. Basically, at this point, it's a tie, and it's looking like it could very well be a tie. However, till the very end, we gave away death on a boss, I believe, and then we were looking like we were going to lose, and then they died. So it's 149. It's going to end up being 150 kills for us. So we're finished with all the fights at 5 deaths. And our opponents were at 149 kills. So they only had 1 fight left. 1 fight they had left. And it was looking like a tie. And I actually managed to catch that moment 23 minutes before the end of the war. I saw that they are taking that last fight, which was the Nick Fury here on the path, well, in the middle section, kind of like the joint mini before minis, if you call it as you will. And I actually, for the giggle, thought I'd record that bit. So, as you can see, I didn't show the opponents here. He was using, I believe, Omega Red for this fight. And this is it. If they defeat this guy, it's a tie. But they didn't. And there's the KO. And yeah, that led us to winning the war. Sorry. And it's as tense as it could have been. Everybody was like browsing everything, checking Alliance War every 3 minutes. And yeah, it was much looking like a tie. But luckily for us, not luckily for APOCO, they did die to the very last fight, last champion left on the map. So they died 6, we died 5. We win this war, and we are still within hopeful, reasonable shot of landing somewhere in top 3. And I'm still deathless, so that's cool. So I know this hasn't been the most intriguing Alliance War video, at least in the gameplays part is supposed, but I still hope you guys have enjoyed it. And if you have, please do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons. I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the